Good morning students. In the last class we learned about the human skeleton, the parts of the human skeleton and different parts like the skull, the girdles, the backbone, that is also known as the spine. We learned about the rib cage, the limbs. So these are the different parts of the human skeleton that we learned about. Today we are going to learn about the joints. Now, what are joints? We are going to learn about what are joints, different types of joints, types of different types of joints, why joints are so important. So, in what body parts do we have the joints? So, this is what we are going to learn about today. The topic for today is joints. So, you can open page number 36 in your books. Is given, and please read whatever the topic that we are covering today, and in every class. Read it after you have seen this video. That is all. Now we are going to start the topic of joints. So before we start with the topic, we kick a football. For example, you kick a football. How do you kick a football? You move your leg and then you kick your football. Or you kick a ball, so you move a leg. You are lifting this pen up. I am lifting this pen up. How am I lifting it? With the help of my arm. Yes, so I am moving my arm in a way. Now, are these two movements similar? Am I moving my arm in the same way like I am kicking the ball with my leg? Are they same? I am rotating my shoulder. Is it at the same as both of the other movements? How are these movements possible? Some parts of our body can move. Now, can you move your skull? You cannot move your skull, but you can move your neck. You can move your backbone. You cannot move the lower part of your arm, but you can move your elbow. You can move your wrist. You can twist your wrist. You can bend your backbone. You can bend your twist also. You can bend and twist your wrist also. You can lift something. So these are all movements that we are able to do with our body. Now, how are we able to do these different types of movements? We are able to do all of these movements like twisting, lifting, bending. All of these movements are possible because of joints. Because we have joints in our body. So what are joints? Joints are the place in the body where two bones meet. So joints are where two bones meet. And these because two bones are meeting over there in the joint, they enable us to bend. For example, if we look at our arms, so this is my arm and this is my arm and this is my forelimb. This is my upper arm and this is my lower arm. Now I am going to move my arm. So I can move my arm like this. This is how I am moving my arm, or I can also move it like this. I can do this up and down movement. I can lift anything with the help of this arm, and the movement is possible over here. So I have a joint in my arm over here, and this part is the elbow. This means that the lower part of my forearm and my upper arm, they are both meeting over here in the middle point. This is the meeting point of both of these bones in my arm, and this is the elbow, and elbow is a joint. So elbow is an example of a joint. We have a type of joint in shoulder because we can move our arms up and down. We have joints in our backbones because we can bend very easily. Our knees, they have joints. Our wrists, we can twist our wrists. We can bend our wrists. So all these places, all these body parts have joints in them. And joints are what? Where two bones meet. So they enable all of this movement in our body. Now there are two types of joints. Immovable joints and movable joints. Now if you remember what we learned in last class in the skull part, we learned that in the skull, in the whole skull, out of the 22 bones, we can move only one part of the skull. Only one bone is movable. Which is that bone? That is the lower jaw. We can only move the lower jaw of our skull. So, the lower jaw is a movable joint, which means we are able to move it. Immovable joints are those joints which we are not able to move. The point where two bones are meeting, but that point is not, we are not able to move it. So our skull has all of these immovable joints. Skull is the only example of immovable joints, only body part that has immovable joints. And the other parts of joints are called movable joints. For example, our elbow, knees, backbone, our wrists, our this lower jaw. So these are movable joints. So there are two types, that is immovable joints and movable joints. Now we know that there is only one part in our body which is immovable joint, which is in our skull, that is our lower jaw. But movable joints are present in different parts of our body. So now we are going to learn about types of movable joints. And different movable joints are of different types. So now we are going to learn about that. So the first one is ball and socket joint. Now can you understand anything when I say the word ball and socket joint? Here on page number 37, in the activity 1, a diagram is also given of a pencil, it's stuck in a clay. So that is kind of how a ball and a socket joint looks like. Ball and socket joint, it is called rotary joint. It is called rotary motion because it moves like a joystick. Have you seen a joystick? Or for example, we have gear in our cars. So just like we can move that gear up and down, right and left. So that is how a ball and socket joint is also able to move. It is present in the hip and the shoulder. So in the bones of the hip and the shoulder. So we are able to do up and down movement in our shoulder because of the ball and the socket joint. And ball and socket joint, it means that one bone, it is ending with a cup shaped, it has a cup shaped ending, and the other bone is sort of like a socket. So it fixes and it enables the movement like a joystick. So it enables up and down movement. So we have up and down movement in any direction. So that is called a rotary joint. Rotary joint is which allows rotary motion. Now what is rotary motion? Rotary motion is when movement in all directions is possible. A 360-degree movement is possible. For example, you can make a whole circle with your hip bone. You can rotate and turn your shoulder bones. So this is ball and socket joint. Now the hinge joint. Now hinges, anybody knows what hinges are? So hinge joint, it takes its name from hinges. Hinges are the clips that are attached on the door. When the door is attached to the wall and it is attached to the wall, so we attach it to the wall so that the door does not fall off and we are easily able to open the door. So we attach hinges to the door. So the hinges, they allow movement in only one direction, that is open and close movement. Like we open a door and we close a door. So that is the same movement that is possible with hinge joints. And hinge joints, they are present in elbows, fingers, knees and toes. On page number 37, it is also given. You can underline this line in the paragraph of hinge joints. We have similar hinge joints in our elbows, fingers, knees and toes. So hinge joints, the movement is only possible in one direction, and we have them in our elbows, fingers, knees and toes. Because if you look at your fingers, we can only move our fingers up and down. That is in one direction. You cannot really move it. You cannot rotate it. You cannot rotate it in every direction. You have to move your whole hand if you want to rotate your finger. So that is using our wrist and not our finger. Even our knee, we can only do an up and down movement with our knees, and elbows similarly. So we can only do an up and down movement in one direction with the help of our elbows. So all of these are an example of hinge joint. Now the pivot joint. Now in a body, pivot joint is present in the skull and the backbone. So the pivot joint is present in the skull and the backbone. So the pivot joint, it allows sideways as well as up and down movement. So because it allows movement in all the directions, it is also a rotary joint. It allows movement in all the directions. So it is a rotary joint. It allows rotary motion. We can do sideways movements. We can do up and down movements. So it is present in our skull and in our backbone. Between the skull and backbone, that is the neck. So the bones in our neck, they join the skull and the backbone. So it is the pivot joint. Our neck has pivot joint. It is very flexible. We can turn our neck in almost in every direction. We can move our neck. So it is a rotary joint. It is a rotary joint and a pivot joint. So pivot joint is also called a rotary joint. Now we will learn about gliding joints. We have gliding joints in our wrists and our ankles. In this joint, the bones, they glide on one another in any direction. So the bones are able to glide on one another in any direction. For example, we are easily able to rotate our wrists. We are easily able to rotate our ankles as well. They are also present in our backbone. That is the reason why we are easily able to bend our backbones. And we are also able to twist our backbones. So we have gliding joints in our wrist, ankle and backbone. It is also called planar joint. So we learnt about joints today. These are the types of movable joints: ball and socket joint, hinge joint, pivot joint and gliding joint. So this is the topic for today. Please revise this and read the topics thoroughly from your book. That is all.